CTAC meeting. My name is Erin Phelan. I am the new chair of the committee. We also have Mr. Robert Basham as our vice chair. Welcome. And I also want to recognize Mr. Ken Lance, who has retired and come back to CTAC. We also have some new members from Chesterfield, and Sarah Keel is going to introduce them.
Yeah, so we have Sharetta Bird, who's here in person with us.
Everyone.
We also have Dr. Courtney Hamilton. She is here with us virtually.
Welcome. Hi.
Welcome.
Hey.
And then we also have Rodriguez Jackson. I'm not sure that he's not in the room with us, right? Okay, I don't believe he's in the room, and I don't believe he is online at this meeting, but we'll look forward to meeting him at the next. Oh, yeah, so now we can just move on to roll call.
So next we will be doing the roll call.
Okay. Town of Ashland, Mr. Martin, Mr. Root.
I am here.
Thanks, Mr. Root. Charles City County, Mr. Walton. Chesterfield County, Chair Phelan.
Here.
Mr. Jackson's not here, okay. And Ms. Bird.
Here.
And Dr. Hamilton.
Here.
Thank you. Goochland County, Mr. Basham.
Here.
Hanover County, Mr. Waddell.
Present.
Henrico County, Mr. Dixon. Mr. Weed. He's joining late. Newton County, Mr. Dismore. City of Richmond, Mr. Bunn.
Present.
Mr. Brackman. Ms. Erickson.
I'm here.
And
Present
Mr.
online.
Oh, online. Perfect. Thank you. And Mr. Hutzler.
Here.
Chamber RBA, Mr. Boudreau.
Here.
League of Women Voters, Ms. Wiziger.
Here.
Ms. Rosenblum. Richmond Department of Transportation, Mr. Moore.
Here.
Do you want to introduce who's with
I have
you?
an intern with me, Calvin, is interning in our office from Mary Baldwin. Welcome.
Welcome. BCU, Mr. Leonard. Mr. Cole.
Here.
Virginia Conservation Network, Ms. Kamara. Mr. Hankins. RVA Rapid Transit, Mr. Sanders.
Here.
NAACP Richmond Branch, Mr. Minor. Mr. Willis. Virginians for High Speed Rail, Mr. Testerman.
Here.
Richmond Area Bicycling Association, Mr. Burnley. Mr. Hamilton. And Span Center, Ms. Boyer.
Here.
Okay, awesome. So I'm gonna just double check because I want to be sure, but I don't think we have a physical quorum, which does mean that we actually cannot vote on anything for some discussions. Others do.
Said he would be arriving late.
Yeah, I think he said he's on guy now. If he arrives late and that creates a quorum, then we can go back, but we'll just have to do that first.
So do that. Oh.
Yeah. We can't hear those. Okay. So this is a little bit of an anomaly. This doesn't always happen, but we don't have a physical quorum. And for voting purposes, you have to have a physical quorum of people in the room. So that does not mean that we cannot discuss all the agenda items. We just cannot hold any type of formal vote on them. If somebody comes in late and that creates a physical quorum, we can always go back and vote on those items. But for now, we just won't have anything vote worthy. And if we need to do something that requires a vote, we can push it to the next meeting.
We can be productive in spite of.
Yeah, you can.
All right, moving on to our next item, we have consideration of amendments to the agenda from the previous meeting. Are there any amendments anyone would like to offer? None? No amendments then. Moving on to the third item. Approval of the May 21st CTAC meeting minutes. I call for a motion.
So we're not gonna vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can just talk, if anybody has any like edits or things they want to mention about the minutes, you're welcome to do that here. Sorry.
Thank you.
I know, it's like a really weird time.
Yeah.
Okay. No discussion on that point. All right, we'll move on to the next item, open public comment.
We didn't receive any public comment. Just so you know.
Okay. Would anyone like to comment before we move on to the next item?
Madam Chair, would it be appropriate for me to do my plug now in public comment?
I would wait to the member share.
I have to.
You might have to leave.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know.
I don't see why not.
It's fine.
Yeah, I think you can
If
close.
you'll oblige me, I'll be exceedingly brief.
You can close.
Public comment, member of the public. On the back, if you see that green thing that says Chesterfield, the CTAC news, and then what that is, Chamber RBA is hosting Chesterfield Business Council Transportation Focus Meeting. Plan RBA is sponsored. We're going to talk about the POI. We're going to talk about the Willis Interchange. We're going to talk about bus rapid transit plus economic development. It's $20, or you can email me and I'll let you in. So if you look on the
Listen online.
if you look at the Chamber RBA website, that's probably the easiest thing to do. My contact info is on there, and then if you go to the calendar feature, you'll see time, location. It's in the Timmons facility across from Kroger's.
Where is
Whatever
this?
we call that, the Timmons building across from Kroger's.
Where the old Liberty Mall was.
Yes, whatever we're calling that now. At Chippenham and Route 60. And so that's my plug for, thank you for the courtesy.
Of course.
Hope you'll all join.
It's also linked as an event on the long range transportation plan page. If you go to our Engage site and you go to the LRTP page, all of our upcoming events are there. It's linked there too, if that's easier for you to find. Yeah.
Virtual, if I
It's
can,
in person.
it's in person only. Thank you.
We're gonna give you a cup of coffee and pastry.
Thanks.
All right. Our next item is at-large member organization endorsement. So we will not be voting.
Correct, you will not be voting to make the recommendation today, but you're welcome to discuss it and like talk all about it.
So there is, there are some recommendations that have been made to be advanced to the policy board. Ordinarily, we would be voting on these, but since we can't vote, we can just have a discussion about these, and this was included in the packet. These are recommendations on open organizational seats. And if we were voting, we would vote, and the vote would be to move it to the policy board for approval. We won't be voting, like I said, but we can have discussion if there's any discussion anyone would like to have on this topic at this time.
We are talking about possibly admitting 2 more voting organizations. What would the number of representatives per each be?
You go to page, if you go to page 15 in your packet,
Okay.
there are 2 organizational seats that are vacant. So there are 2 organizations we'd like to fill with that.
1 each.
Organizations may have 1 member and 1 alternate that may attend. They only get 1 vote, but an alternate may attend in addition to or instead of the representative seat. So it'd be no more than 4 humans, but it is 2 organizational seats.
Okay.
And 1 stipend per
Thank
organization.
you. Forgive me for,
Oh, that's an excellent question.
I haven't read this.
Yeah.
What are the organizations?
From the back.
I- That's why I said next year.
So one is the Hanover County NAACP, and the second one is OAR.
What it's worth at a social event, a week and a half ago, president of the Hanover NAACP had Jordan asked me about this organization, and I gave a short discourse on what we are, what we do, and the importance of regional. On a broader scale, like any good organization, the more contribution, the more discussions, the more people that can contribute, the better, the stronger we are. So we're not voting today. I'd recommend a strong consideration of additional brain power. I'm impressed with Ms. Jordan's community activism on the county scale. And at the school board level too, she brings a perspective that maybe I don't always see, but she would be a contributing member, bringing a perspective that we could benefit from. So I welcome freedom discourse.
Thank you.
Any other discussion on this topic before we move on? Yes.
Who were the two organizations that opened it up?
They have been vacant for a while, so there is not an opening. It's just, we've had the vacancy for at least 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was something just near Easton or
Yeah.
whatever.
All right, if no one has any other comments or discussion on that, we'll move on to the next item. This is an informational item. This is the start of the new fiscal year in July, and these policies are linked in the agenda. One is attendance, and the other is the stipend policy, just for your information. And you might want to review those now that we're starting a new fiscal year.
If you have any questions about the policies, I'm happy to answer them. And if you are new to CTAC or new to the stipend policy, I'll probably be reaching out to you about that just to confirm, answer any questions you have. If the stipend applies to you and you are interested in opting into that, there's some paperwork that would have to be filled out, but we can chat offline separately about that. But you'll probably be here after.
I have a question, Sarah.
Mhm.
Is that if the folks that have already answered, do they have to do that each year, or is it, okay, you've answered, you're good?
You've answered and you're good.
Okay.
If for some reason you're changing your mind because there's nothing that's prohibiting you from accepting the stipend, then I'm happy to chat. We readopt the policies every year, but your paperwork should stand.
Good question.
All right, moving on to our next item, transportation planning cycle. We have Miles Bushing.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I haven't met all of you, but I'm Miles Bushing. I'm the Director of Transportation here at Plan RBA. And so since there are so many new faces around the table, we wanted to just give everyone a quick high-level overview of what is it that we do here at the TPO, so everybody's on the same page. So you'll see a graphic on the screen. This is something that we use with the policy board. We use it with the TAC. We use it in everything that we do to really walk through how transportation planning works, because it's a really good way to think of where decisions are made, when they're made, and how the process comes together. So kind of how a project starts and how we get to something on the ground. So it all starts at the top of this process, are identifying issues and solutions. So everything that we do here at the TPO at Plan RVA is about fixing something that's not working out in the region. And how do we come up with those issues and solutions? It's a variety of different studies. So VDOT and DRPT will look at corridors and come up with studies. GRTC will come up with studies about what we need to do on the transit side. Here at Plan RVA, we do studies of various corridors. You've heard of some of them. Like right now, we're looking at a bike study of how do we get out to the west to Goochland and beyond out to Charlottesville eventually. So variety of different sources. Each locality has comprehensive plans. So that's where we figure out what's not working, what do we want to change. The big thing that sets the MPO, the RRTPO apart from sort of those local plans is that we have to actually prioritize those solutions over the next 20 years. And that plan's called the region's long-range transportation plan. So this is a plan that basically lays out over the next 20 years, here's the issues that we see. Here's all the different solutions that we could potentially look at. And here's what we can actually afford to do. And so that's a lot of trade-offs. You know, there's a set amount of money and transportation is very, very expensive, as I'm sure you've all gathered. I mean, a single interchange project will cost $100 million or more. So we are talking a lot of money. So even though the numbers we talk about are really big, it doesn't go very far. And so there's always more needs than we have money to solve in that time frame. And so we have to make trade-offs and figure out what we want as a region. What's the vision for the next 20 years? And that's through our long-range planning process. As many of you have heard, we are just about to wrap that up. So we are scheduled to adopt the 2050 long-range plan in September at the policy board. So it's been ongoing for the past 2 years. We're getting to the very end of the process now. The next sort of step in that project cycle is how projects are funded. And so here at the TPO, we have two different roles. We actually have money that we, as the RRTPO, control and are able to pick directly which projects get those. I think you had some discussion at the last meeting about some of those funding programs. But on the flip side, we're also an applicant. So the Smart Scale program is a prime example. That's the state's largest program for funding. We are able to submit 10 applications to actually get money for our priority projects as a region. And so we partner with the localities to figure out what's the 10 projects that we want to move forward right now, what's ready to go, and we get those into the process. And usually those are the big projects, interchanges, BRT routes, things that are in large scale type projects, because that's what we're able to submit. And that's kind of what broadly across the region we agree on. Once we get that done, then we have money awarded to a project. And that money comes from the federal government, comes from the state, it comes from localities. But what we have to do is actually get project agreements into place. So that's coordinating with the federal government, with VDOT, with DRPT to basically authorize that money to get spent, which is how we then kick off the project. It moves us into implementation. That is the one part that the region does not have a role in. So we're not actually out there building anything. We're just getting the projects through that process. And then once the project's on the ground, we go back and we look at, did things actually happen the way that we thought they would? So we use a performance-based approach, which means that we set metrics ahead of time. We assess our projects on how well they're contributing to those various metrics. And then after the fact, we go back and see, did those projects actually do what we thought they were going to do? And then that starts the whole cycle over again. Well, we solved the problem here, but now the problem's at the next intersection. So how do we solve for that one? And so it's an ongoing process, never ends. But this is the diagram that we always use to try and explain it. I just wanted to give everyone that brief introduction so we're all on the same page. But if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those right now.
Thank you. I have a question. You mentioned that the RRTPO has funds to distribute. What are some examples of past projects that you guys have been able to do that with?
Oh, so there are a huge number of projects that we're involved in. So annually, the RRTPO has about $35 million that we directly select projects for, and that's spread across 4 different funding programs. A lot of what we do is actually put a little bit of money toward a project, so then it can go into Smart Scale or one of those other competitive processes and have a little bit of a lower cost. But some of the examples of things that we're working on right now, deep water terminal down here by the port, it's getting extended to provide better access to the port. We have money on various sections of the Fallen Trail. We have put money on the Mayo Bridge to replace the bridge. So a wide range of projects, and where the projects come from is each locality and some of the agencies that are part of the RRTPO are eligible to submit applications. So we're not picking the projects that move into the process, but we are assessing them on how well they help us to meet those goals and the vision that we have for the region.
Thank you.
This might be drilling a little too deep, but you assess cost overruns for projects, how frequently, how much? And the real pregnant question, what recommendation can you make to the doers to keep costs under control?
Yeah, so I think that is an industry-wide issue over the past few years. I think with COVID and construction inflation, pretty much all of our project budgets were shot. One of the things that we do here, and I think this is something the policy board has been discussing a lot over the past few years, is we've actually set a cap on really how much the RRTPO is going to increase our share of project costs over time. So it's a soft cap, but it's 50% cost increase. So if you come in at $1 million, once it gets beyond 1.5, there's a couple categories for waivers, like general economic conditions driving things above that. But we've set a limit on how far the RRTPO is going to contribute. And that really puts it back on the localities and the project sponsors to figure out the solution for the balance. So it doesn't necessarily address the how do we keep it under control, but it does kind of address the regional role and the regional risk that each project represents.
Mitigates our.
Exactly.
Is there any long-range solution to capping costs practically? I'm putting you on the spot and I
Yeah.
apologize for that.
No, I mean, I think that is the literal $1 million question. If we could solve that, I think we'd be probably state of the art, state of the industry. But no, I don't think right now that we've come up with a solution on how to cap those costs.
Is it a doable thing ever? Rhetorical question.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
So if I can move to the next section, Madam Chair. I am also on tap for the next item that's under this, and this is kind of giving a realistic example of how that cycle plays out. And so I think you've heard over the past few months about the safety action plan that we've been working on over the past year. And so this is a plan that is aiming for the region to take more of an active role in safety planning. So we had a safety action or safety plan before, but it didn't have the teeth. It didn't have actions that we were supposed to be taking. What was the next steps? And so really at that point, we were handing it back to the localities and saying, here Chesterfield, here Charles City, here Ashland, this is what we found. Use this to help inform what you do next. And what we're trying to do this time is actually make this into something where we can continue with the program and help move these projects and the initiatives forward to make safer streets. And the reason I'm bringing this to you is that the plan was adopted at the board's July meeting. So this is now the official plan for our region. And there's really three main things that this plan brings across the region. So the first thing is that it identifies the regional high injury network. So high injury network is basically a mapping of the roadways that are disproportionately contributing to the number of people killed and seriously injured across the region. So what we found, and I think this is pretty stark, 1% of the regional roadways was contributing 70% of the fatal and serious injury crashes that we looked at. So it's a little hard to see, but basically each of those little red segments is a half-mile window that we looked at, and we tried to identify the areas that were the worst of the worst. And so what we found was those are primarily on our big arterial roadways, on 60, 360, 250, sort of where you would expect there'd be more crashes because there's more traffic. But there's also higher speeds, which means we get worse outcomes. And we took that information and we put it together with input that we received from the community, and also with the idea that these corridors are continuous. It doesn't stop just because you've looked at the half mile where the crashes happened over the past 5 years. That same condition continues along that roadway. And so we've mapped these out into what we're calling priority safety corridors. So again, it's largely those major roadways, but these are the corridors where we have the most potential to improve the outcomes across the region, to reduce the number of people killed, the number of people who are seriously injured, and really just make it safer for everyone to travel. And so this is the focus of the plan, is really these priority corridors. And this is where we want to dive in. VDOT has complementary efforts where they're looking at reducing systemic crashes system-wide. So they're looking at every curve on the roadway to see, is there more signage needed? Is there something we can do at all of the spots everywhere to bring down the risk overall? And this is us diving into very specific corridors that we're saying, these are where it's most dangerous today. So those two complementary efforts are going to help us to drive down the number of people killed and seriously injured. So how are we planning to do that? It's really 6 actions that we've proposed in the plan board's adopted. The first is a regional street design guide. This is basically looking at the best practices in safety, looking at each of these corridors and putting a type on there. You know, this corridor has transit, it's got sidewalks, it's urban. What is the best practice there? What should we be doing to help save lives? And that's laying out a manual, and it's a toolkit that everyone across the region will be able to use, a common language that we're all using for safety planning. The second part of this is a road safety assessment program, which if you've heard about our work program for the upcoming year, this is one of the big projects in there, but it's basically rolling out a program where we can look at these corridors, figure out an area to study, and then look at what's not working today so that we can get real projects and real improvements on the ground tomorrow. So this isn't a 20-year plan. This is a next couple years type of plan. And then action 3 builds on that. And this is a regional quick build kit of parts. So the idea is, and if you've been traveling anywhere in the city, you've seen this. Quick build projects are basically flex post, hay bale, things that you can put out quickly, test whether a solution is working, and then harden it, make it real, put concrete down. And so the idea is if we work together with VDOT and our locality partners and build out the template, stuff that everyone's agreed on using, we can try these quickly, iteratively, and figure out the solutions that work. And we don't have to wait years and years and years to fund a big project. We can try something now and then get it on the ground. And then sort of the next part of this is really putting this all into action. So the quick build implementation, that's taking that toolkit and applying it. Action 5 is complementary safety plans. So the state has a strategic highway safety plan. Several of our localities have safety action plans. This is basically working with our local partners and our state partners to make sure we're moving it all together and it's working together as one system and not the regional plan is separate from the Chesterfield plan, is separate from the VDOT plan. And then the final part of this is holding ourselves accountable as a region. And so this is a safety dashboard. There's a QR code I'm about to share on the next page. You can look at it there. This is basically how are we doing year over year. I mentioned everything we're doing is performance based. So we're looking and tracking the number of people killed, the number of people injured, how many crashes are there hot spots? And we want to make sure that we're moving the needle on that each year. And so this is really our approach to that. We're trying to measure, and if you measure it, then you can actually change it. So this is a very high level overview, but I just wanted to let you all know that this has been adopted. So this is kind of the guide moving forward. The QR code on the screen, you can go and see the plan. You can see the dashboard. It's all available there. If you have any questions, Dan Motto is the lead on the project and he's here, but you can also email him at that email address as well. So happy to take any questions on this.
Sure. I was just gonna say, or ask, if the projects generated by this, are those gonna be like, it seems like they're generally smaller, so like targeting like HSIP funds and SGR projects? Is that what they're going for?
Potentially, and then again, going back to the TPO has dedicated funding, so is there a way to align that with how we're picking projects with the funding that we have available as well?
Okay, great.
In your assessment side of things, you're looking at physical as well as behavioral.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is looking at behaviors. It's looking at the infrastructure. One of the things, and I should probably have highlighted this, is this plan is really taking an infrastructure first approach. We are building on safe systems, which means we're trying to build redundancy throughout the entire network. But at the core, it's infrastructure that's going to do the most to move the needle. And so that was the approach that we took in building this out. But it does look at behavior. It looks at enforcement. It looks at education. There's a complementary messaging campaign that we've developed a white paper for. Still seeking funding to be able to roll that out broadly, but basically having a single shared messaging across all 9 of our localities when we're talking about safety.
Thank you.
Did you look at, was it vehicle only crashes or was it like, involving pedestrians or bicycles or?
It included all crashes, so pedestrians, cyclists. I think there's a large focus on vulnerable road users, so particularly on pedestrians. One of the things that we've seen, as you've all heard over the past few years, is pedestrians have become a larger and larger number of the people who are killed across the region. I think it was about a third of the overall fatalities last year were pedestrians in our region. And so we are very focused on that. That's a high priority, which is part of why we were looking at that infrastructure first approach, making it safer for the people who really, they don't have the protection of a large vehicle. And so that was a major emphasis in the plan.
To follow up on Madam Chair's question, do you assess on these pedestrian deaths, whether it was unavoidable or was it something that they did stupid? And how do you weigh that if you do?
So we don't look at it that way. I think one of the things and one of the approaches in transportation planning is really that every fatality and seriously injury is preventable, right? So at the core, even if somebody did something that was stupid, that was there was education. Could there have been something, better vehicle technology, better infrastructure that would have kept them safe, even with that choice? And so that's that whole idea of building redundancy, that even when people make bad choices, because we'll inevitably all make bad choices, whether we're driving, walking, cycling, the system is there to keep you safe. And so that's kind of the framework and the approach is we don't really need to know whether that was the cause or not. We're trying to design around that.
Trying to design some people's stupidity.
Exactly.
I need that sometimes. Thank you.
I also have a question. It's sort of a comment, but a question. Because of the region's commitment and the TPO's commitment to Vision Zero, and that's meant to really be an action plan. Is this sort of understood as part of our way of living out Vision Zero? And if so, I'm curious also about the more recent change to the scoring of projects where I believe the safety score was raised to have more weight. Is that also part of like the way we could all think about the comprehensive action steps that maybe have already been taken as part of Vision Zero?
Yes, I think that's exactly right. So this is part of Vision Zero, is getting to actions to actually drive the numbers down. And that is the big shift here, is we're moving toward being more proactive at the regional level to help drive those numbers down. So yes, absolutely, this plan is our initial contribution toward that. In terms of the scoring, broadly, for the long range transportation plan, which I mentioned is wrapping up, safety was elevated to be the highest scoring component of all of our project weights. And that was based on feedback that we received both from the community as well as our advisory work group, which is representatives from across the region, that really safety is the biggest priority because, and I think this is actually in Safe by Design, it doesn't matter if you can get somewhere quickly if you don't get there alive, right? So at the end of the day, a safe system is the critical component of transportation.
Thank you, Miles.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our next agenda item. This is the fiscal year 27 schedule and UPWP work plan.
Excellent. Hi, everyone. There was an attachment outside with the agenda that looks like this, that has the fiscal year schedule of topics and also a grid on the next page. This is an overview, and I'm going to talk about these two things in the next 4 minutes, and then we get to move on to our big activity. So this is just information sharing about what the schedule will look like for this year. We have purposely aligned the schedule to the Unified Planning Work Program, the UPWP, which is what the TPO is tasked with doing, so that the work of this committee is aligned to that and is also aligned to how do we prepare you for what you need to know to talk to your communities to get the engagement. And you'll see there's one new thing on that first page and also in the grids. It's a November field trip, which is at the request of members and some interest from other folks. The idea of taking a field trip to actually do some on the ground experiencing of what the safety plan is in action. So we'll actually participate in a safety corridor audit with some regional engineers and planners. That is in the works right now. So we don't have all of the details for that yet, but it will be in November. That will be an optional in addition to meeting, because we actually need the November meeting for a very important focus group that you will be participating in. But we'll have more details on that to come. But this way you can kind of put this on your calendar and get ahead and know what is coming. The other alignment of this is that we have actually purposely set the agendas of each of our meetings to be the same pieces each time in response to member requests for how can I be more prepared as an ambassador? How can I have the information I need about transportation? how can I make sure we're working on a topic that's relevant to the body? And then what are the outreach needs that we have ongoing? So each agenda will look the same. The letters that are on the agenda, A through E, mimic that. You'll see that every time. And then my part 2 is the public engagement plan annual update, which if you go to page 18 of your agenda, this is letting you know, and there are actually 2 pages here that are letting you know that we have to update our public engagement plan annually with our benchmarking numbers of how we're doing. That public engagement plan was created in 24. You all, if you were in this body, had some input on what that is. That's the very high level plan of how we plan to engage the public. We may have dedicated engagement strategies for different specific plans like we did for the long range plan, as you might remember, but this is just kind of high level benchmarking to see how we're doing. And so what I put here for you is the last fiscal year and the one we just completed. So FY 25 and 26, we just completed 26. So it's giving you some numbers to compare to see kind of year over year, how are we doing? And then on page 3, it's kind of telling you a little bit of narrative about why we think these numbers have changed. And so the things that are of note is that our numbers are pretty steady. Some of our numbers increased. We have increases in our engagement site, which makes sense because we are utilizing it more than we did the first time we started this. We have more plans where people are understanding it's the place to go. So that makes sense to me. We have a small increase in our newsletter subscribers and in our media mentions. And if you look at the numbers that have actually decreased slightly, our numbers have gone down a little bit in actual events attended and people engaged. And my explanation for that on page 3 is we had 4 major planning products in FY 25. So we were out in front of people more than we were in this last year. We don't expect that our public engagement numbers will exponentially increase every year. Like we're probably not going to add 600, 700, 800, like we may not increase that much. Our goal, I think, colloquially is to engage more people if possible, but we don't expect that the number is going to just always go up. It might kind of be steady depending on what we're working on and what plans we actually have a requirement to get public input on. So I feel good about these numbers. There's more that we could do. I think always your job is to help us do that, right? How do we make sure we get to more and diverse communities? But there's also some QR codes if you don't have this in front of you that you can go and see them. And all of this is linked on our site. Are there any questions about that, Charlie?
Yes. It's outreach that we want and education are our goals. From year to year, assumptions here, you probably don't want to revisit the same underserved communities, but how often do you revisit places like that or groups like that? Every 2 years, every 3 years, or by invitation only?
There's not a dedicated answer to that apart from the plan where we said we were going to do that. So when we made the engagement strategy for the long range transportation plan, right, the biggest thing we do, the most amount of money, the one we're currently working on, Kristen's going to talk about in a second. We said in that plan, we wanted to revisit the same groups 3 times. We were going to attempt to do that. Now in practice, that's been a lot harder than I think we even anticipated because not all groups are ready, interested, free in the times that we have requirements to see them. So the relationship building is the long game. But in that one, we said we would like to revisit the same groups 3 times. So that's a commitment we made for that timeline. We don't necessarily have that specified that we must reach X people 5 times in the big plan. But if that's something we think is important, we could consider that.
Implicit in your answer is, well, this question, you're increasing your sphere of influence. You may have hit 40 underserved communities last year, but 25 this year. That doesn't mean that your outreach is shrinking. It means, and I think I'm repeating what you said, they're not ready for us or for other reasons, but your targets pool of eligibles are increasing.
So I don't know if you have a thought on that. I don't think it's always that simple. I also think that when we made this plan in 2024, the difference between underserved and hard to engage is not a clear distinction. That was language that existed before we started on this, and I'm not sure that that's the right distinction. So the next time we get to update this plan, I think there's worth in looking at, do we need to be more specific about what we mean? Do you have a thought on that? Okay. Any other final thoughts before we move to our next activity?
Thank you all.
Keep me up for my next section.
All right. So next on our agenda is a engagement activity that Holly is going to lead us through, this PPPP engagement activity. I'm not going to try to remember what that stands for. You
Okay.
can remind us.
So in the May meeting, you got a presentation, which I'm going to bring up here just to show kind of high level about the P quad, as we are calling it in short. Sorry, trying to make. Shows up. There we go. So this is a pilot program that we are working on to make it a little bit easier to understand what we're doing with transportation. And so I'm not going to go over all of this right now because you saw this before, but if you are not familiar with this, I want to encourage you to revisit this presentation if you need to. In a minute, I'm going to actually get your input on an activity about one of the pieces of what we need to do in order to make this giant PPPP work. And the goal of it is that we've got to be more transparent and data-driven about how we select transportation projects. As many of you noted, even as we have progressed along this long-range plan, right, this is the biggest thing we do, it's not always clear how things got chosen. There's a lot of technical expertise that happens on the back end to determine, like, why do we pick the projects that we pick? And so we have gotten this grant, the PQuad, to help us create some new methodologies and engage the public a little better about why we're doing what we're doing. It's not that we are not doing it transparently or correctly enough. I just think that we could do better in perhaps describing and explaining and connecting the dots and showing it visually, right? I don't know about you, I'm a visual learner, so it helps me to be able to see what we're looking at. You all have asked good questions about funding sources, right? How do we be clear that leveraging funding in one program affects another? A lot of that is kind of like hidden behind the scenes stuff. And so being able to tell folks things build on each other, we can create some dashboards and some visuals that show that is what we're trying to accomplish here. There have also been some questions about scenario planning, right? So this is not a new-ish idea, but the idea of instead of planning for one future, we're modeling a lot of different futures. What would a different scenario look like if we end up with one future versus another, right? Choose your own adventure books. How do we make sure that we're checking all of our projects against all of those futures and being clear about that work? We're doing that now, but the visual of showing that to the public is still a little bit confusing for folks. So this is some of the kind of things that we said we would do. We're going to make it easy for people to see it, how projects are chosen. And then one of the things that has come up is if we make choices that are against what the ranking and the methodology shows us, we've got to prove that we have a good reason. And I think this is also a question the public asks is, how do we make sure that there's not like favoritism happening or that whoever the loudest person in the room gets to choose the project they like the best? We're not doing that, but I think if you're not clear about how projects get chosen, we have a way to say, here's how you can be outside of the ranking and have it still really matter. So public support, geography balance, looking at economically distressed areas. So these are some of the ways that we can make an exception to kind of what the scoring looks like. And so where you all are going to help with us as our major body to do engagement is that one of the things we need help with is what kinds of questions are we asking? So in the other handout that came, and I think Sid put it in the chat, this is the link that's on the actual committee page, which talks about the PQuad, and it's a handout that has survey questions at the back. So the first page is a little bit about, if you scroll up, thanks Sid. That first page is talking about what is the rough timeline of what we're doing. And so you don't need to get too deep in the weeds about this timeline because this is more or less set. I just wanted to give you a heads up of what was coming. There are two pieces that are about engagement and two pieces that are about the actual technical methodology. So the first thing that's coming is that we've got to ask people, how much do you understand about how decisions are made? You know, you're all familiar with the concept of pre-test and post-test, right? Like if we ask people what their understanding is, we've got to give them something new to understand, educate them. And then the post-test is, do you now understand? So we're going to ask the same questions in the beginning and the end to say, what got better in the middle? So we can prove that we changed some behavior and understanding. So you're helping us with the pre-test questions right now, which is our goal is that this fall and maybe early next year, winter, we're going to revisit those groups that we talked to and identified for the LRTP, those three kind of, the 45, do you remember when we talked about like, who do we need to identify as the groups we should be revisiting? And the 45 came from, well, if we've got 9 counties and we pick 5 groups in 9 counties, that's 45. So we're building our engagement list based on trying to reach those groups, but new groups are coming. So we're going to revisit those groups and say, hey, here's what we did. Here's what the LRTP is doing. And we're going to be in kind of a focus group environment, right? This is like an in-depth conversation we're having. And we're going to ask them what their baseline understanding is of how projects get scored. So some of what we need to figure out is what are the right questions? So in a second, I'm going to divide you up into small groups. I would love for you, don't go yet, to get into groups of 3. Depending on the room, you might have to have a group of 2 or 4, but get with a group of 3. Now, if you are online, you can't work in a group because the webinar function doesn't allow for breakout rooms. So you'll have to do this independently on your own, or if you have somebody in your office, feel free to grab them and drag them in. But what I'd like for you to do is if you turn to page 2, you'll see there's a list of survey questions. And what I would like for you to do until about 1:12, I would like you to chat with your teammates to say, do these feel like the right questions? What's missing? What kind of groupings do we need? And up at the top, it actually tells you that we pulled these sample questions from a paper that our federal government funding partners recommended we reference. We're not required to use these, but I actually think they are a lot of the right kinds of questions that we'll be asking folks. And so what we'd like you to do is give us some feedback on the questions. Do they feel right? Do we need different questions? Does this feel clear? And as a reminder, we're doing this in like an intense group setting. We're not putting this on a website. We're not sending strangers to a link. This is with a group of people that we have intentionally brought together to bring them through. So they're not going to see these questions out of nowhere and be like, well, I don't have any idea what the TPO does, right? We're going to tee people up with the right steps so that they will feel competent in answering these questions. Their answer still might be, we don't know what you do, but we're going to tee them up properly to kind of show them where we've been so that we can ask them how much they understand.
Where are the questions that we're going to be?
Your hand up.
It's bring quick.
Yep. So there's some instructions at the top there that says, do these feel like the right questions? Make your notes it right. And then I'm going to bring us back together for a small debrief if you have any major things that jump out, but feel free to take your notes here, write legibly so that I can collect them. Yeah.
I want to back up 2 or 3 minutes.
Sure.
One of the things that just popped into my mind, stream of consciousness, is how often do we reach out to the broadcast media, especially the television stations, to broadcast some event or some outreach that should be broad in reach and get them to do a 2-minute blurb or something? How often do we do that?
That would be a great question to put on your notes as a recommendation that you have and a question that you have. I don't have an answer for that right now, but that would be a great piece to add.
Sometimes I have an epiphany. This is one of them.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so put that down because that would be a great suggestion of like, ooh, I would like more information about this.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. All right, you have till 1:12. Get with a person next to you or 3 people next to you.
Works for me.
If you're online, feel free to download this document and make notes on it right now, and I'll bring you back at 1:12.
Yeah. No. Can't have too many pendants. Whether.
She just explained, we have done this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Mr. Cumming.
These are the questions. This has the question and this has the make our notes on it. Is it the right question? These just like the right question. So what is?
Do you agree?
So number one, it's like,
I will handle it.
so I would say long run transportation.
Mine put is valid too. You can work in a
On the group.
Understand how the citizens are.
It's tell me how much focus.
Actually,
So that-
in these groups.
When you have influence and not how.
How the structure is.
Interconnected.
Right.
Seems like a lot.
Okay.
So are these-
Could ask.
Not just.
Yeah.
So it's Sora, let's see. Who else is online?
Unless there's
Dom.
somebody that's active and involved in the organization. Second question should be, well, no, we know locality is an out, no ins and out, John Doe.
I think that it seems really abstract, but how it's interconnected. That's stuff like.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what you're
Sources, expertise, engineers.
Well, look at it, they're trying to highlight some questions on kind of engagement, follow-up, and transparency. And so they have this question, where, to say what we think of.
Like this, we sit there and so what are you asking me? It says. Years. What is it?
This is using the example that they did these outreach. And so they're gonna talk to them again, to try to understand how much.
Most people.
And these are the questions. Is that, am I saying?
Explain to me. They're gonna answer that. Detail.
Oh, okay, so you got this.
These.
So I saw.
From 7 to 7.
Oh my God. For each.
So we're advising. It doesn't.
For each of the questions.
Is any presentation?
Precise questions.
So.
Yeah.
It's talking, you're just talking. These last one. See this. Most like. Either grab it, understand, sometimes it sounds like, like so in my head about what I'm trying to do, get muddled, what I'm just, what am I?
Okay, so these are, but I was.
Well, it's a long range.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying on that.
It's transportation in general, but the focus.
Are you satisfied?
The project.
That's right.
Like, how did the decisions get made to give us $9 billion of transportation funding to do that plan? Sorry about that.
Kind of need you to understand what they're asking for.
Right.
So, so.
It's okay, yeah.
Kind of sounds like this.
You understand what we're talking about before I can.
To the purpose of.
These are the folks that we've been engaging with for the last 3 years on this process and it's just finished. It's finished. We're going to revisit that timeline and process.
So.
For that 3-year process. How do they?
I think you're wrong. What I don't want to say,
One question.
so this may be, I'm gonna.
I hope so. That's what we're trying to avoid, I think.
Avoid.
Them giving a response set, so to speak. But by that I mean, okay, we participated. We didn't feel it was effective. Instead of say, yeah, unless they really got disappointed. I like.
So if they.
Okay, the next whole equity.
So.
I understand.
The way he answered this.
As a kid, you're kind of got that.
Right.
need the questions. We're gonna ask them.
No problem.
In a certain, like they will be doing it. Yeah. It will be open-ended, but there will literally be a data point, a human and questions.
I was thinking, yeah,
Yeah.
I was thinking.
I just want to let know, right? So then
Well, the focus groups are setting up, and at some point, there will be given the questions to answer based on the information we shared with them.
We follow up with said.
Now evaluate. Yes.
Thanks for the perspective.
Yeah.
Because
It's called shotgun. It feels work, so I don't understand.
it's just more relevant than mine. Thank you.
2 points, the difficulty is how your window is.
Okay, have your final thoughts and come on back.
He's saying B.
Well, I'm still kind of grappling.
Okay.
Some other people, I think.
So bring your attention back. I know that was not a ton of time.
Know that.
The meetings always run long because everybody has lots of good questions. So who has what feels like a valuable insight that you want to share? I also am going to encourage you to take this home and think about it and send your thoughts after the fact, right? We have some time to build this. So don't feel like, Holly didn't give me enough time. You can have more thoughts with it. But if you have things you wrote down today, please do give them to me. But if you want to take some home and send it later, I just know that the likelihood that you take that home and forget about it in 2 weeks is high. So I'm encouraging you to share what you have today. Anybody have a thought that feels strong?
Can you answer for the rest of the group? Share the answers that you gave me to my dumb questions to.
Yeah.
So that, because you, my group discussion enlightened me, you added to it, and now I have a better
Yeah.
understanding of how you're going to conduct and who you're going to conduct with.
I was saying if this is a focus group, we are bringing people together, we're giving them some information, we're having a conversation, but at the end, there is a literal survey they will have to fill out because I would need a data point, demographics, that they will get some questions based on what we shared. So it's not like I'm not like going to their face and being like, how do you I'm not asking them that. We would prep them and then they would fill out some sort of documentation at the end.
I had just assumed that it would have been a one-on-one.
Group setting, individual answers at the end. Yeah.
Thank you.
Who else has something good? Yeah.
For category 4, the
Yep.
timing, are you asking them about the public involvement process that they are involved in right now, the focus group? Or are you asking about the total?
The long range plan that they just been through. So the thing that we just completed, the long range plan.
Okay,
So that process,
the process for the.
For the-
document,
for the
not just what we
project.
talked about.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Good questions. Yeah. Anybody else? Ken?
One of the things we talked about over here was, the process, the length of time that it takes to develop a long-range plan from beginning to end
Mm-hmm.
can be, 3 to 5 years.
Yep.
And the challenge that you have with public involvement and engagement is, retaining somebody and having somebody that stays engaged that entire time frame.
Yeah.
It may not be even realistic because you'll have people that come and go. They literally move out of the area.
Yeah.
Their interest
Yeah.
wanes or ramps up depending on the topic. So the time frame I think, is an ongoing challenge in terms of public engagement. And, then you'll have maybe somebody who wants to come in the middle and they may want to go back and revisit something
Yeah.
that's already been
Yeah.
decided previously. So dealing with that as part of your process is I think, an ongoing challenge. And we talked about, that we have engagement throughout the process, but there are certain key points where we ramp that up and we'll have special surveys or public meetings, what have you, as part of that. But just the time frame I think, is a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. One more response we have time for, and then we got to move to our next section.
I'm gonna say something.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been dealing with people in public for 40 years. I think that when you start saying, I understand, 90% of the people are gonna say yes, because they don't want to appear inadequate or dumb. I think it's a wrong way of asking.
Helpful.
Yeah,
So
We
maybe.
briefly touched on
different
that, and I
framing,
think the statisticians call it the response set, and that's what I wanted to address here. You're entirely accurate. I've had similar experiences, but I'm hoping if they get a questionnaire with enough answers that they might be, and it'd be anonymous, it might be more candid to admit their foibles.
Yeah.
But you're right, I've seen that situation more often.
That's
And I
a
do it
good point.
sometimes.
Yeah. I love that. Awesome. Okay, thank you. I know that's not the end of this. I just want to get our kind of juices flowing. We've got to move on to our next section, but either give me what you have now or take it home and send it to me later. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to our next item, outreach needs. And Kristen is going to take us through LRTP engagement, the final stage.
Yes, so I am combining just a quick mention of the physical handout of CTAC news that I like to create so you have something to take away. It is intended to just bring us together at the top, remembering like, you know, why we're gathered here in this committee. It's so amazing to have you all as thought partners, as community engagement professionals, in the fact that you live and work in the communities that you are here representing. And to just remind about some things that are either upcoming or currently open. So I put the long range transportation plan next and final public engagement period first, because it is opening July 29th. And you also have handouts at your seats today, and online they should be in the chat. I think they're being dropped in the chat from the meet. And I had made a big poster, you know, great flyer sized one, but there's a small handbill sized one that we use at events so people can take that away. And of course, the QR code is always there to the actual Engage site page where all the information and then public feedback tools are. You'll see that on the back side of that flyer, there is a big blown up photo of this big board that is also things that we take out into the community. I hope everyone can see, even online, you can see it's a big board. People generally really like these. We had 4 of them of the scenarios that were available in the last public engagement period. And so this is intended to be like mirroring that, so people would feel familiar if we were coming back to them that, oh, this is the one that was kind of the baby of 2 of the scenarios that were negotiated. We also have a few other boards that explain our public engagement process, where we've been. We want people to know, even if this is the first time they are seeing, for example, the draft plan that they're going to be seeing July 29th through August 27th, that this was part of that 2-year process of updating. So no matter when we reach a person about the long range transportation plan or the TIP, for example, we have an opportunity to tell them that we may have just reached you now, but there will be another update in 5 years. And part of this process is making sure that you're aware that that's a cycle that exists. So you can still have comment now. You might feel upset that you didn't know about the initial public engagement, but we'll have another round and we really want to stay connected to you. So follow the project. Whenever you're talking to someone about any of these engagements, because you're directing them to the Engage site, you can have them follow the project. So I'll switch over to this handout. That QR code goes straight to the top of the page. It's the button. Hopefully you all are following on the Engage site any of our projects. You'll get an email in your inbox when, hey, the new engagement site is open, or hey, there's a new project here, because we don't collect people's emails. So that is really another important piece of this, that these are all anonymous surveys. So we're not able to be back and forth communicating with thousands of people. These graphics, I think, really help to tell a story, to get a person who may be overwhelmed by the idea of this 25-year plan and 5-year updates to come in and ask a question. So I'm encouraging you to get to know this high-level graphic and to explore the LRTP project page. Tell us if that language feels good to you as well. We really do try to make it so that anyone coming in would have a way in, and there are translation options for 10 languages on that site. And so we also try to make sure that that data is printed there in a way that it will be translated. This image is not translated into 10 different languages, so that is one of the barriers that we're trying to work through, how to make sure that we're posting things on the site that can be translated. But the reports, they can click on and look more in depth. If people have questions about rail or bridge projects, there's a note there to try to explain why those things are important in the region, are a part of the transportation system, but may not have been part of this scenario. And so we want that to simultaneously educate all of us, but also when you're talking to the public. You'll see that on CTAC News, we also have the Weaver Awards open and the recycling barrier study. Those, we want to make sure you're going to be talking to people who care about a lot of things, not just transportation. So that can be another way in. So when you're really hoping to get their feedback during this, maybe you're saying, I'm focused on transportation. You might talk to someone and say, there's these Weaver Awards. Have you seen those? When they go to the engage.planrva.org site, they're going to see on the 29th, they're going to see 3 boxes at the top. One of them is going to be the RRTP. One of them is going to be the this recycling study, and one of them is going to be Weaver. They will then see that there's a lot of things they could interact with. So this is an amazing tool. We hope you're using it. If you have questions about the process in this 3rd phase, you can see on the back of CTAC News, you could accompany us to pretty much any one of these events. You are welcome. And all that is just sending an email. I mean, you have my number, you can call and say, hey, I want to stop by and just like shadow and be a part of that. We do not want you to feel intimidated. We would love for you to be able to go out on your own and talk in a meeting, stand up and say, hey, I want you guys to know about this opportunity to weigh in. But sometimes you need to shadow. So please let me know. We'll let you know which staff person is lead on that. There's the safety, VCU MCV Campus Pedestrian Safety Fair on September 16th. Dan Mata will be leading that, and we would love for a CTAC member to go with him. It's fantastic. People are really interested and they want to talk to you about what we have open. So I'll stop talking. I want to ask if there are any clarifications or anything I can share more about what's coming for the final engagement.
Well, just a thought, it's a 5-year long range thing. I know it's not like a comp plan, which is similar on a local level, but the comp plan on a local level can be updated or amended almost at any time. This is a 5-year static thing to keep them, your inputtees connected, involved all the way through the whole 5-year thing. Do you emphasize that there are discrete dates for adoption, but we don't wait 4.5 years to come back to you? Do you let them know that you still collect input even though it's an off cycle?
So
Does that
I
question
think
make sense?
what we might say to that in terms of transportation is that the transportation improvement plan is that 3-year shorter term cycle where public input is asked for. So actually there's quite a bit of transportation input requested of the public. While it may not be on what do you want to see in the next 5 years, right? That's only at the beginning of the LRTP. And so that kind of like tell us, throw it out there. What do you want? Is only going to happen one time in that cycle. But if you're interested in the transportation system in this region, there are many ways to be involved, including at your local level. But the tip, these meetings, we invite people to come to these meetings to listen in online. We're really trying to lift people's knowledge of how this all works, and that it's not just when we come out to you and say, hey, there's a survey, but that they could be involved in civic engagement around transportation or whatever issue. And at the regional level, that's why we exist here. So I hope I'm answering your question that.
I think you are, and I think you've opened.
The safety plan, for example, the messaging.
So you're also tying in with, that's regional, on a local level too. Okay.
Yes, if they're talking about something that they want ameliorated, or fixed in their community, we're not going to ever be that body to fix something on their street. And so we're trying to also distinguish between who we are and what our authority is and what it isn't. And that is people are very interested in understanding that.
And one final comment, let them know that any transportation project takes a long time between.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I think they can see when we're talking about 2050, they're already wanting us to come back a little bit. So, yeah. And they live in neighborhoods where they've seen, right? People reference typically, oh, yes, it's taken a long time for this. And so
they tend to not understand. They expect 2-3 year cycles. And thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. All right, on to our next item. We have our member share. First is Chad Sanders with RVA Rapid Transit.
Hey, thank y'all for this opportunity again. So still, I keep saying fairly new. I haven't been a new kid in school in a long time. So, but I'm enjoying it. Richmond's a great place to be new and meet a lot of really brilliant, passionate people that kind of guide you along the way. So, happy to continue to serve as the executive director of RV Rapid Transit, which I think for me, what attracted me to this role in this city is that this organization began with a number of policy leaders, clergymen and women, I would say anchored by the awesome Reverend Ben Campbell, who is, I think we're up to 1973 in our coffee conversations of giving my Richmond education. So it's still building up, but just grateful that those individuals saw an opportunity for riders to have a voice in place in these very dense conversations we're having today with these long range plans and how do you make the macro level hundreds of millions of dollars make sense to the fact that hey, there's no sidewalk at the bus stop that I go to and cars are whizzing by me. And this is how me and my children get to school and work or take a museum trip on the weekends. And so RV Rapid Transit stands for a few simple, but I believe powerful propositions. One, more buses, more places. We want this system to work in every corner of this region that it can. Number two, safe and dignified places to wait. So shelters, benches, all the things that make waiting important, which also plays to that safety action plan that bus riders are also pedestrians. So that's the kind of the intersectionality of how we get a chance to show up with a number of other organizations. Three, the rider's voice gets a chance to actually play in policy and decision making. And so when I think about the invitation opportunity that my predecessor Faith and others and all the smart folks, Dan Motto's on my board, so the boss left before I bragged on him. But the fact that we get to sit at this table and take these really dense, complicated, long range ideas and make it make sense for the folks in every part of this region that we get a chance to connect with. And then kind of a fourth pillar that isn't formally into our ethos yet, but certainly we stand for open access and zero fare. We know that the average Virginian spends $13,000 a year more owning, operating, and maintaining a vehicle. Daily riders save nearly $1,100 a year by zero fare. And that's a lot of money back in people's pockets in this age of affordability concerns and gas being $4 a gallon. So, we just have a great opportunity to talk to folks about why this system, that means literally the ride to work, the ride home, but also how it plays into climate action, how it plays into public safety, public health. So it's just really awesome for me to be able to be here and learn and meet folks. And I was telling Sarah earlier, I was like, I feel like I got a good excuse when I run in sweaty and late for meetings because I took the bus here. And so I'm only going to be as fast as the system moves. So it allows us to live and love our work in that way. And just grateful that I get a chance to connect with you all. I think Demos left, I was laughing when I moved here from New Orleans after 17 years. And so when I saw his name, I knew that's a Louisiana guy immediately. But just grateful to continue to meet more and more folks. We are reloading and refreshing. Sarah's been with us in the past. And so I can't replace Faith. I can't replace Stephanie. I'm never going to be those folks. But what I'm trying to do is in this next 10-year window, this next phase of what RV Rapid Transit can be, is continue to honor the great work that's been done and connect with the right people to keep growing it.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is actually a new item. This is open member comments. This item has been added to allow some time for you all as the CTAC members to give feedback. What does your community need that this committee can support? What questions do you have about how you can take what you hear and learn here back to the community? So it's unprogrammed. It's just, what questions you have, comments you have, concerns you're hearing about that you want to bring to the attention of other members.
Yes, I will say, I wanted to make sure that this meeting included a shout out to Tap in the Transit Day, because that was a really great event and people all throughout my community who are not normally aware of or involved in transportation planning and transit and things like that went there or interacted with the many, many posts that came out of it, social media posts that came out of it. So that event had huge reach and was a really cool thing to be part of. So wanted to make sure that got mentioned.
Great, thank you. Yes, Ken.
Madam Chair, just a couple things I'd like to offer if I could. Very encouraging the discussion concerning the addition of a couple of new at-large member organizations to the CTAC. I guess my comment to the group would be is that I think we need to continue to take a look around the room and see who's not at the table, literally. And just two groups that come to mind. I don't know that we have a representative of the disability community. That's involved.
EDAC?
We don't have, yeah.
We used to have EDAC on the board.
Right. And then we also, I think we're lacking a representative of the Hispanic Latino community as well. So I just mentioned that to you.
Excellent.
And secondly, it's been mentioned a couple of times today, but I'll reiterate it. And that is that, we're wrapping up work on Plan 2050. But that means we're getting ready to start on Plan 2055. And, everybody kind of groans because, oh no, we got to start all over again. But I think that starting on the next long range plan gives us opportunities for the committee to, assess what has worked and not worked all that well in terms of public outreach and engagement. And what are opportunities for the committee as a group and as individuals to be further engaged as we move forward with that. So we have kind of a blank slate going forward.
Great, thank you, Ken.
Madam Chair, can I add one more thing to the point about the organization representation? When I read about the two new organizations that may be joining CTAC, my former work as executive director of an organization that holistically thought about, cared about formerly incarcerated people. I love having them at the table. My entry to transit and transportation was the fact that when we provided housing and jobs, I lived in New Orleans with RTA, we spent thousands of dollars a month because the one thing we could promise somebody coming home from prison, that we can a place to stay, a peer mentor, a job, and a bus ticket. And we're going to start a path to where you're going to go next in life. And so I love having that conversation. We think about vulnerable people, vulnerable populations, and folks who want a great opportunity to change them in their lives, the family, the trajectory, that transportation is critical. And so that them have that conversation and who it connects to, you go far and wide. I just wanted to say that whoever suggested them coming to the table, but awesome.
What organizations do you know locally that we could reach out to?
I saw that one. Oh,
That's on the
yeah.
suggested.
But there was one more
They're
that
on
I
the
heard about.
suggested list.
I fell asleep.
I can talk to you later. I
Yeah.
can share mine.
Yeah, just want to just echo that, from my own personal experience, having them at the table in this conversation be really, really strong.
I'll share that we have reached out to a group that serves primarily Latino population in our region. And, a lot of our, and one of our tribal members. And so there's interest there, but there's also capacity. So internally, we've looked at who we're connecting with, and, it looks like you all really are already doing some work, and they just might not have known about this committee. I think that's our goal, but you can't just, pop somebody in. So there's a long conversation and relationship building and invitation to come and view a meeting online, really understand what the responsibility is. So I think you all can be having those conversations as well. What I think would want to avoid is that we're trying to fill somebody when it's open. We want people to be thinking, this is something they could participate in without having an organizational seat, and to also have impact. Inviting them to come and share in public comment to educate us is another way of including folks from your networks to come and share about what they do. And we're doing that. It's just a tough midday on a Thursday sell sometimes. So the attendance policy has really helped sell that, though. Thank you all for your work in creating that, so that we can say that if you're virtual, and the stipend actually it's already proved to really pique interest.
Go for the lunch.
Yeah. And you're stimulating conversation on your personalities, you guys. Come on.
I can
Sorry, I was late. I was late to the meeting, but I'm not sure if did we discuss the idea of having like an on-site, like at a CTAC meeting to look at a specific intersection, some sort of to make safety improvements.
Yes, Michael, in the handout that is about the schedule and topics, we have added an optional November field trip for that very reason. So in the outline that has the topics aligned with the UPWP, at your suggestion and others and the interest in the safety plan, this is a participating in a safety corridor audit. So more information to come, but it'll be in addition to the November meeting.
Excellent. Thank you.
I do have one last thing, as a comment, that because we weren't able to take a vote on these organizations being recommended to the policy board at their September meeting, we would then need to revisit and have a vote at our next CTAC meeting for that to be put forward at their next. So we've missed the September voting wing for that. And I don't think that will change the organization's interests. It's not about that. I just wanted to make sure we were clear that not being able to take the vote today has moved that up down the pike a little bit.
Which is maybe more important for our in-person attendance in the September meeting. So if you can make it in person, that's an important one to try to do, yes.
I realize we don't have a quorum, and this may be another one of my series of dumb questions. Could we have a non-binding show of support, or is that going too far?
I don't know the answer to that.
Again, I don't think that there's some urgency
Okay.
to do it. I think it's okay. I mean, this is just how it played out today, but
Okay.
yeah, it punctuates that need to be here in person.
Thank you.
Possible.
All right, I just want to share one more thing. As the chair of this committee, I'll be attending the policy board meetings. So the next one coming up is in September. And that's an opportunity to communicate what we've talked about here to the policy board, and also to bring back what's discussed at the policy board, bring that back here and communicate it to the committee. So if there's anything that anyone would like me to share with the policy board, feel free to let me know. We can discuss. Happy to do that. Our next item to close out, looking forward and next steps, we have opportunities for folks to do a member share at the next meeting. So if anyone would like to volunteer for that, we can take up to 3.
Folks online?
Yes.
Jordan,
see you.
Or tell us between now and the next meeting. We don't have to have it if it doesn't feel relevant, but we would love to know if there's something that is relevant to your county or your
Say
org.
something about smart scale.
I think that would be better for Miles to do.
Andrew shared last time.
Yeah,
That's good though.
okay.
okay. All right. And with that,
Motion to adjourn, which precedes all other motions.
If someone will second, yes, we can adjourn.
Actually
Someone
can't
second.
vote on adjourning.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Sorry. You can just adjourn. It's okay.
Yeah, well,
Thank you for the reminder. We're getting towards the end.
meeting's adjourned.
Thank you. Good job, Chair.